Star Citizen needs server meshing to be an MMO, to be a massively multiplayer online game, to have that massive amount of players in-game in any meaningful way. Alpha 4.0, their next major patch, is going to have the first stage of server meshing as part of its live build. And Star Citizen have been doing server meshing tests over the last few months. And over the last few days and weeks, they've been really focusing on different types of configurations of their servers in a single shard with as many players as possible. So previously they've had the Pyro Playground, which is the gameplay area that a lot of 4.0 will encompass, but they've been connecting that to the current Stanton system with a janky jump point. So they had all of that sort of working with server meshing to a degree. More recently though, they've had 1,000 players across 6 servers on a single shard. So let me give you a quick explanation of what static server meshing is, which is what we're getting for Alpha 4.0. Effectively, they stitch multiple servers together to then share data seamlessly between them on the same shard. So previously, and currently, a single server, a single shard, they are the same thing. They are one-to-one. There is one server on each shard. That's what you got. But they can have multiple servers all seamlessly sharing data on a single shard, so the sort of limit of players in a single server does not limit the amount of players that you can have in a shard, or it does, but you can expand it out. You can keep on scaling it just by going and adding more and more servers. What static server meshing is, and the tests they've been doing, is going, look, each of a particular set area is going to be run by a server. So they go the area around Microtech and each of the major planetary systems, so Microtech, Kirsten, all that sort of jazz, could be run by their own server, and then another area, Grimhex, could be run by another server, and as you move between those servers, sort of going past those area and boundary lines, you'll move to a different server, but you'll still be on the same shard, and you won't know that you've moved server effectively. The process is seamless. CIG, they are trying to work out what the best configuration is for servers on a shard. What areas should be covered? How many players can they get on each server? How many players can they get on each shard? How can they optimize all of this? How can they get it as bug-free as possible? They've also been doing this by trying to improve other adjacent areas of their network code. More recently, they've added the RMQ, the replication message queue, replacing the network message queue, basically just making stuff a bit more optimal for server messaging and sort of spam and what data is sent to players and when do they listen and request for it. So all of this is, for the most part, for static server meshing for Alpha 4.0, the next major build. And the sort of hope is that it will catapult the servers / shards that we currently have with 100 players on to being able to play on a shard with 1,000 plus players on. CIG as well, they need to work out how many servers are going to be running the Pyro area as well, and how that's going to be divided up. There are still going to be multiple shards though, and there's going to be shards sort of divided by region as well, at least in the short and medium term, because one of the major issues they're having with all this testing and everything is lag, desync, and just huge optimization issues. This stuff needs to be refined over many iterations. And these more recent tests, they leave a lot to be desired, at least for players. So if you're jumping in on the tech preview where CIG are testing, more recently you would have seen huge amounts of desync, lots of delay when playing, lots of people disconnecting. CIG, however, said that this data they have been gathering recently from players is much needed, allowing them to optimize and fix exactly what they need. They will be doing some more internal tests and improvements, and then this stuff will go back out to testing, and expect them to do this weekly, almost would be my expectation, or fortnightly. We might actually see more testing later this week and potentially today. And yeah, there's more and more of these tests being run all the time. They're going to keep on optimizing this and get it into a good state. But what happens if they don't? What happens if there are big issues that prevent them from releasing server meshing, well, they're going to optimize it more. They're going to do that even if it does work, right? They're going to want everything as optimal as possible. They're going to want stuff to have redundancy where possible. This is all going to need to work with server crash recovery. And when you're having loads of different servers on a single shard, then if someone crashes, there's going to be delays between the servers. How seamless is that experience? Common problems with moving between servers as well is that like your missions would drop, damage states wouldn't carry over, things like that. So there's going to be loads and loads of edge cases. They need to solve as many of them as possible. So yeah, if they have it in a state where there's huge amounts of interaction delay and it is not viable for them to push it with a build, well, there's the potential for delays with 4.0. They've got 4.0 planned by the end of this year. They want to have it in our hands by the end of this year. Now that could just be a PTU build, but it does sound like they want it live in our hands by the end of the year. But yeah, they could always delay it if they have to. Now, if they still couldn't get it working, they'd go for the next best thing or another path. It wouldn't be just like, that's it, we're packing up, we're done. They'd go for a different solution, even if they did have to fully instantize areas or some sort of hybrid solution. And yes, server meshing tests look good, or at least CIG seem to be confident by what they're seeing and stuff working, even if it is not particularly great player facing at the moment. Because if they released an actual live build with what they've got with server meshing at the moment, it would be effectively unplayable. Too much desync, too much lag. But all of this is effectively in preparation for the future of dynamic server meshing, which basically has different object containers. Every individual room, every individual ship, every area of space, every planet, every part of a planet can be spun up into a server and nested within another server, and they can be spun up and down based on population needs. If done efficiently and when optimized, this is fantastic because it's perfectly scalable to your needs. You could potentially have every single player in the same shard. And that would be the sort of blue skies thinking dream goal. It might not be viable. We might not be able to have something like that. That still might have to be region-based, stuff like that. But I suspect CIG won't know exactly how far they can push the tech until they push the tech. So although we're going to have the first stage of static server meshing in our hands potentially by the end of the year, it will need a load of optimization, and then dynamic server meshing may be a couple of years away. It's really hard to tell. That is just a guesstimate. Now, some dynamic server meshing may be able to be tested a lot earlier because there are use cases for it in game, or there are potentially some interesting hybrid things that they can do with static server meshing and dynamic server meshing. So by this, I mean they can potentially use instances in clever ways. And this could be tested with personal hangars, the Siege of Orazun, and that kind of dynamic event, barge heists, contested zones. These are all sort of areas where they could have them as instances, and it would probably be sensible for them to do that. I believe that the personal hangars are effectively instanced, but I suppose they do also exist streamed into the server. Also, with these sort of things, it makes you think, like, they don't necessarily need dynamic server meshing. There's a load of other ways they could do stuff. I know that Star Citizen wants to be this beautiful, seamless thing where you can fly down to a planet and everyone's in the same shard, and there's a load of cool stuff that you can do. But if, for some reason, they can't do it in the way that they want to do it, they will do it the next best way. Or at least CIG would if they weren't given the amount of money and time that they've been given. So they will probably make server meshing, dynamic server meshing, work, whatever, eventually. And that might be something that you're really excited for, or something that fills you full of dread if it's going to take ages, because that could mean that we have a Star Citizen minimum viable product 1.0 without dynamic server meshing that they add later, which would probably be okay. Or it might mean that a Star Citizen 1.0 release is actually many, many years away until they get dynamic server meshing working in the way that they want. Or maybe they just get dynamic server meshing working a lot earlier than I think. But I sort of think it's interesting that CIG could just have a load of layers of contested zones in Pyro, and that way you could limit players going in a sensible way and just go, well, it's a sprawling, changing environment for those extraction looter shooter elements. And thinking about it, that might actually produce some better content than having dynamic server meshing, than having everything persistent. It's an interesting one, right? I'm not saying that one is definitely better than the other. I'm just saying that it's an interesting conversation to have. Some of the content might benefit from being instanced. It would certainly take a lot of load off the servers. Maybe I'm mad, but this was supposed to be a bit of a ramble, and I'm interested to know your thoughts on this. I might have gone a bit off tangent, and I might be wrong about some stuff. And tell me in the comments if I am. I'm willing to hear other people's points of view on this. Obviously, Star Citizen is a melting pot of ideas from the community of how they should advance and improve their game in a lot of areas. CIG obviously have lots of plans for certain bits and bobs, and we are unable to influence certain bits, but like master modes, they're constantly evolving, right? Hopefully they'll be in a really great state in a few months' time, or more people will be happy. Anyway, going off the rails more. Please tell me what you think in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear from you. I'm excited for static server meshing turning up in 4.0. Do you think it will turn up in 4.0 and it will be good? Are you worried everything's going to explode and break? And do you think they'll actually be able to have true dynamic server meshing one day? Or do you think it's a better idea to have some sort of hybrid solution where they do actually have instances in game? Because, well, with instance content, you can actually do quite a lot of cool stuff. What are your thoughts and questions? Chuck them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. What's in the box? That is what Pandora asked. She was told not to open that box, but she did. The internet is like Pandora's box, full of the chaos of the world. And Pandora basically opened an email attachment asking to help a millionaire prince move money around. Bam! It was Medusa all along. You've turned to stone. Foolish! You should know your Greek mythology. What's not foolish is nordvpn.com/BoredGamer. NordVPN is potentially one of the greatest Greek mythological heroes. It helps protect you from the terrors of the internet, helping you be more secure and private, while also giving you great accessibility. You can use my links down below to get NordVPN cheap. September, we've got a giveaway. Every month we have a ship giveaway, and this month is no different. We're giving away 5 ships this month. Actually, that is a bit different. That's 4 more than normal. We're going to give each of them to a different winner. We've got a Nomad, an X1, a Sulen, a Mustang Alpha, and a 100i. They all come with access to the game and lifetime insurance. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning any of those is comment on any of my videos made during the month on YouTube. I want to say a massive thank you to all our patrons and channel members. Your support allows us to make daily content. You are the best. And you should consider joining them by clicking the join button under my videos. It goes a long way in helping us, as does commenting, sharing videos, liking, all of that jazz. You do not have to chuck money at us. But if you want to, I'm not going to stop you. Thanks for watching and have a great September.